Welcome those joining. Give it a couple minutes for people to join before we get started, as always. Hello, Yankee. Welcome. Hello, Gregory. Welcome those who are joining. Giving it a few minutes before we get started. Say hello to each other in the chat. Let's get the community geared up. Hello, Visaka, Douse, and Anthony. Welcome. Hola, amigo. ¿Cómo estás? Hello, Bella and Gautam. You're concerned about me. Am I okay? How do you, why are you concerned, Visaka? But what makes you concerned? What red flags have arisen in your mind that you're concerned for my welfare? We'll get started in about a minute or two. Welcome those who are joining in. Might be the camera. I don't Am I looking gaunt? No, I don't know. Yeah, the lighting is not that great, but I am in what essentially amounts to a kuti. um, I'm essentially outside. Yeah. I have my nice gas heater going on here. Good morning, Shin. Ni hao. All right, it's time to get started. You can continue to talk in the chat and say hello to each other while I break out the starting chant. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Attamaha purissa vitakka Apicchasayang Dhammo Nyayang Dhammo Mahicchasa Santuttasayang Dhammo Nyayang Dhammo Asantuttassa Pavivittasayang Dhammo Nyayang Dhammo Sanganikara Massa Aradha Viriyasayang Dhammo Nyayang Dhammo Kusitassa Upatittasitayang Dhammo Nyayang Dhammo Muttasatissa Samahittasayang Dhammo Nyayang Dhammo Asamahittassa Panyavato Ayang Dhammo Nyayang Dhammo Dupanyassa Nippapanchara Massayang Dhammo Nippapancharatino Dayang Dhammo Papanchara Timasa Papancharatino. All right, English. 8 great noble thoughts. Or you could translate it as the great thoughts of a noble person. This Dhamma is for reducing desire, not for increasing desire. This Dhamma is for increasing contentment, not for increasing discontentment. This Dhamma is for cultivating seclusion, not for becoming sociable. This Dhamma is for becoming energetic, not for becoming lazy. This Dhamma is for developing mindfulness, not for developing unmindfulness. This Dhamma is for developing composure, not for making restlessness. This Dhamma is for increasing wisdom, not for decreasing wisdom. This Dhamma is for delighting in freedom from impediments, not for delighting in impediments. These wonderful thoughts to reflect on as you begin to practice the Dhamma. All right, let's see, just checking the chat. All right, friends, well, welcome. It is Monday night, so that means it is another Dhammapalooza, our 2-hour festival of Dhamma for the Maggasekha community, where we come together and do a variety of Dhamma-related activities. We just did some chanting. Later on, we'll do some meditation. And in between, who knows what we're going to do? Because each Dhammapalooza is community, is guided by community input. That's the best way to say it. And what this means is in the chat now, in the next couple of minutes, if you have any questions you'd like me to answer, if you have any topics you'd like me to talk about, give a little Dhamma talk, or to discuss, or myself or the community discussing a topic, you can put those topics in the chat. Put any questions in the chat. Keep talking to each other. Say hello in the chat. Get to know each other. If I'm talking and people are engaging in the chat, that's not interrupting me, that's not insulting me, that's perfectly fine. No problems. This is a community event. This is not about come and just listen to Bhante talk for 2 hours. That would be kind of boring anyway. I mean, I can read suttas for an hour or 2 hours, but I like to have engagement, right? Have a community discussion. This is the one time a week that I'm on YouTube, at least live. I'm on Insight Timer on Saturdays, and we do our session in the Discord server on Sundays. But this is the one time where we're all together on YouTube. So type in the chat if you have any questions or topics. And if we have nothing, well, and the chat is quiet, well, we have suttas we can read. No problem. All right, Joel. Welcome, Joel. Joel, is this your first time with us here? I'm not quite sure. I'm not quite sure if that name rings a bell. So please tell us if you're new to our community here for tonight. But I'll put up your question here. Let's see. We'll see how long my head can take cold air before I put it on again. So, having recently renounced watching sports. Oh, sounds small, but it has really changed my practice. It was almost an addiction. Do you have any non-Dhamma entertainments, fiction books, etc.? So, yeah, this is like especially if you really get into it, especially if you like, I like this player. I want my team to have that player. We got to get this player in the draft, and we got to do this, and then you get into fantasy football, and you're doing all the. Especially if you get like that wrapped up in it, and you start having debates, and you like, your coworkers likes this one team, and you like the other team, and you're like, we're gonna win, and you're like, there's so many levels of papancha. There's so many levels of the mind getting wrapped up in things that, yeah, when you let that go, it's like, so actually it's kind of peaceful. It's kind of like nice. It's kind of, ah, and if all it is just, I'm just gonna, for a couple hours a week, I'm just gonna chill and watch a game and, do whatever. That's one thing. But if you get wrapped up in it, that's a whole other thing. And it's like, I used to play, video games as a layperson, and I heard tell of people who like became addicted and they're playing like 12 hours a day and things like that. I never did that. Like this, I saw job, career, college, all the things that I, regular life. But I like to play, and so it wasn't like a disruptive thing to life. So, for as a layperson, this is actually going quite above and beyond to give up something like this. And you say it has changed your practice. That's a good thing. Yeah. The less thing that we have, the less distractions that we have, the less things we get involved in, the less drama. Like at Bhavana Society, they had for many years up in the Sangha Hall, the sign says, less drama, more Dhamma. Right? So being involved in like politics and sports and all these things where there's this basically an arena, the arena of politics, the arena of social engagement, etc. All of these things add lots of layers of and levels of papancha, of mind noise, mind activity. And so the less you get involved in, then the less the mind is getting agitated, by various aspects. And the less when you sit down to meditate, you're not going to have all kinds of lots of extra stuff coming to your mind. But when it comes to monks, it's just like, especially if you're a single monk that's part of a large community that basically takes care of itself and is well supported, you won't have anything to worry about. Maybe do a little bit of work during the day, no problem. And the rest of the time you can just do whatever. Right? But then if you're a monk that's part of a place where you actually do like a lot of work and you're repairing and maintaining and such and all these things, then it's just like a layperson, lots of stuff in your mind. Like, I got to make sure we get this done. And I got to go to Home Depot. Oh, we got to make sure that we got to call the plumber in, and we got to do this and that and all these things, yada, yada, yada. Right? There's lots of things in life that cause agitation. And indeed, the sutta I picked for today actually is the last sutta in the Majjhima Nikaya, where the Buddha essentially explains how it's not the senses, it's not the experiences you have that's the issue, it's the attachment and the reaction to the experience, that's the issue, right? So it's quite interesting. Now, do you have any non-Dhamma entertainments, fiction books, etc.? This is an interesting one because I remember like years ago, before I became a monk, and I was I was dying for like interviews and things with monks, like, like for monks to talk about their, the past lives, why they became a monk, what they do as a monk, etc. And I found an interview with Thanissaro Bhikkhu, and in it, he says that he reads Harry Potter books. And I'm like, what? Is this is this accurate? Is this true? This famous monk, reads Harry Potter books. Is this, And it was funny, and he says his response was, "Yeah, sure, as long if it encourages wholesome action and it's not disruptive to your mind, sure." So that was like a real like opener for me. Like, really? Now I know. So when it comes to monks and entertainments, right? The rule is entertainments are, in terms of uh, games, shows, etc. All these things are not to be done, and if they are, it's a very minor rule breach, but it is a rule breach. And obviously, it's not something, especially if you're practicing for higher mind. You want the least amount of distractions, right? You want the entertainments and things like that are essentially a way of distracting the mind, right? Wrapping up the mind and things. And that, not again, not necessarily that it's unwholesome even. But if you're trying to go for higher mind development, like getting into jhanas and deep wisdom and things like that, then yes, you want to avoid using things that kind of distract you. Now, the interesting thing here is, right? What would technically be allowable are things like, you know, discussions, podcasts, educational things. Right? I can watch an educational video on YouTube. I can listen to a podcast. That's technically not a rule breach. However, I could distract myself for many, many hours by listening to a podcast, right? Like I can use that in a way that is essentially still distracting from things. This is what I learned. Like I remember one of my early seclusions, my seclusion where like, I made the choice during my seclusions that I had at Bhavana that I'm going to be in total seclusion for a month, no internet, no internet, try not to even talk to anybody for a month, right? Total seclusion, no talking. I only see people to get my food and that's it. And I mean, I still like studied Pali. I still like, there were still things that I did. I still read. It was like, you know, so it wasn't like that. It wasn't like, I was totally, I still had, things as part of my training, as part of my development that I was doing, right? So it wasn't just like the only thing I'm doing for a month is meditating. Um, and so what I found was that the mind can use anything. The mind is not picky. The mind uses what it can for distraction. I can remember I was moving, I was doing a walk, and I watched this like snail. I think I like it was for like 20 minutes. I watched this snail like cross the road. And I realized like, oh wait, like yeah, there's obviously the part of like, whoa, I'm seeing the beauty of this snail. I usually don't pay attention to, like there's that, like, oh, I'm being mindful. But also I realized, no, I'm actually like, I'm so starved that I'm totally watching this and wasting time watching this snail cross the road. And then at Bhavana Society, when I would, lead retreats and do the orientation, I would say, and also no reading suttas during the retreat. And why? Because even the suttas can be a distraction. And so even skillful things can be used in unskillful ways. I think I covered that. I went pretty long with that one, but that was a good question. All right. But yes, that's a good thing. It's a very good thing that you're doing, working on yourself, and doing giving up something. Right? It's not easy to give up. Gregory says, "You have often said that the Dhamma is not to be had by wishing. Does this mean there is nothing we can do to help, for instance, the recently deceased by way of chanting or dana in their name?" So, in terms of the suttas, in terms of like the early texts, there is one sutta where a Brahmin comes to the Buddha and says, it is part of our tradition that when a loved one dies, we offer a sacrifice and we share the merit with them so that they can benefit from it. And the Brahmin asked the Buddha, does this reach our relatives? And the Buddha says, yes, in one place. And that one place is the Peta realm, the ghost realm. So if you do a good deed, to give a dana or whatever, and you offer that merit up to your relative, and they're in the ghost realm, then they can benefit from it. So the Brahmin then asked, well, what about if my relative is not in the ghost realm? And the Buddha says, Brahmin, in this long journey in samsara, it is impossible that you do not have a relative in the ghost realm. What is the Buddha doing there, right? The Buddha is like saying that, remember, you have lots of people, basically everybody in the ghost realm. You at one point were what? They were your mother, your father, your relative, your brother, your sister, etc. So the Buddha is actually pointing a way towards that kind of like attachment or reflection to the one relative that you knew in this life that you want to do something good for. Not something you hear about these days. Not something talked about much. Because it is, in modern times, it is quite different. There's a lot more other things added to um, the modern practice of, you know, doing an action, like a good, wholesome action for somebody. So if they're in the ghost realm, doing some kind of deed for them may be helpful for them. But in my, I guess, I don't want to say opinion, but the way I kind of look at it, the way I kind of reconcile, I guess, that sutta and how things are done in modern times is like basically in every tradition, there is doing something good for the recently departed. Like in Christianity, like growing up, my mom would like, a relative who died or a friend who died or whatever, she'd have a mass said. Like that's part of that. It's like Buddhists bring dana to the monks. Catholics have a mass said. It's like the same kind of a thing, right? And as somebody who's experienced the loss of close loved ones, I've personally found that doing something good in their name actually feels quite good. It helps with the grieving process, the moving on process. So in many ways, doing something good is more for the living than the dead, right? Because yeah, you say it is not to be had by wishing. You can't wish. Like I wish that my relatives go to the heaven realms or or whatever. Um, that has nothing to do with it. It's their karma that decides where they go in the next life. And not even necessarily the karma from this life. There's eons of karma that decide where they go. Right? So they could have been the most wonderful good person in this life. Next life, they could be in the hell realms. Right? And you think, well, they were such a good person in this life. Well, it has nothing to do with this life. Right? They have lots of karma. In many past lives, they were really bad. Right? Like all of us, many past lives, we have untold amounts of good and bad karma. So how can it help them? I don't know the specifics because it's never really, the Buddha doesn't speak about the specifics about how the mechanism of that works. But I still think, one way or another, I still think it's a good thing. Whether you believe it actually does help them or you think it's just for the living or whatever, it's a good thing, one way or the other. I mean, it's a good, skillful, meritorious thing to do. Anthony says, I was first introduced to the term liberation from the cycle of rebirth of the term moksha. I know it's used in Hinduism and Jainism, but is it a term used in Buddhism? I think it might be used in Tibetan. I'm pretty sure I've heard it used in Tibetan. But other than that, no. Yeah. I couldn't really say much about it. It's not a term I've ever come across that I know of in the suttas. I mean, of course, I've not read all of the suttas in Pali yet, but I'm working on it. But it's definitely not a word that I've ever come across in the suttas. I'm pretty sure they do have it in the Tibetan though. I think it means liberation or something of that effect. So, you know, it's not like it's a different context, a different concept. Oh, obviously it would be different than Hinduism and Jainism. It's a different kind of liberation. Diego says, last week I began eating twice a day, 8 a.m. and then 2 p.m. I'm still in the test phase because I lift weights 4 times a week, but so far it's great. Wanted to reassess my relationship with food. All right, just checking to see if there's anything else. Very good. Yeah, if that's something that works for you, then that's a good thing. And that also allows for intermittent fasting, right? So you have a what? You have a 6 hour period. You might want to have a larger period of because if the period for eating is only 6 hours, then it's studies show like there can be complications and things like that. Um, so it might not be a bad idea to have a snack or something a little bit later, so you have at least a little bit of food. Um, like how I do it when I can. I have my one meal a day around 11, and then I have some like cheese and chocolate or allowables around 6. And that's usually a pretty good balance for me. As long as the one meal a day is nutritious and good, like has what I need, not like carb heavy vegetarian food. That kills me. That does not give me what I need. Um, but that it is what it is when you're a monk. When you're a layperson, you have a bit better ability to make that choice. Um, but yeah, if you when you if you're eating and if you're getting enough in, especially doing your weightlifting and things like that, then it's good. Doing intermittent fasting though is I mean, I've noticed my metabolism has always been horrible. Right? Like I knew people who like Bante Rahula, who I'm staying with, is one of those, right? Like one of those like my one of my best friends from high school. Are these like skinny guys who can just eat everything and not gain any weight, right? But I've been like the always the person who eats a donut or a bagel and gains 10 pounds. But when I do intermittent fasting, my metabolism is just rocking. And like I almost like the like Bante Rahula and my friend from high school. I almost feel like I can eat almost anything I want, and my weight and everything stays good. So I quite like doing this intermittent fasting. It works well. Visaka is talking about how she made it so that there's no TV or channels in her bedroom, only Dhamma. She can only stream Dhamma. That's good, right? These are ways that people figure out to work with their defilements. Hello, Jayanta. Welcome. Hello, Metika. Welcome. Joel has a question. Oh, Joel, you're all on Reddit, huh? Is that how you found me from Reddit? Um, had a discussion on Reddit about venerables. Some believe to be arahants. Is this a discussion one should have? What do you mean, though? Give me a specific about venerables. Some believe to be arahants. You mean like as to whether they are arahants or not? I think that would be if you give me a bit more specifics onto the actual like discussion, what you were doing, I might be able to comment it more. But I don't see that that's a depends on the context, what you're talking about, and why you're talking about it. My response would be different depending on those things. Visaka talking about uh, this is the essential point. What does the content of the book movie have on your mind? Yeah, that is a main point. However, um, we can really easily fool ourselves, right? Like this is what I say. Like like if I'm like listening to a podcast or whatever, maybe a podcast by I just recently found this neuroscientist or whatever, Dr. Anthony Huberman or something. He has some interesting stuff about like sleep and things like that. And I was like, it's like, okay, I'm gonna spend X amount of time. This is why it's good. Like I try to like I always have a schedule for it's like X to Y. This time to this time is Pali. This time to this time is suttas. This time to this like and so like if I do that then it's like, well, this is not the time for listening to Dr. Such and Such on YouTube. This is the time for Polly, right? And so it's very easy for me for my mind to say, okay, now this is the time. I can listen to Dr. Such and Such or whatever, or a discussion on this, what's going on in society or such and such at this time. And so that allows me to make sure that I'm not wasting too much time on things that are not Dhamma. I have free periods on my schedule where it's like, okay, during this free period, if you want to do something non Dhamma or whatever, that's the time. But during this time is Pali, this time is Suttas. Trying to make sure that I set those habits in my mind because I know like this is why even when I was on my seclusion, I had to make a schedule for myself. Because if I didn't, I'd just be like lounging around, just like, oh, I guess I'll just read for the next 4 hours. I'll just do this or that or whatever. And then like nothing gets done. I don't progress in my Pali. I don't progress in my suttas. It takes me forever to read to get through the suttas. As I read through all of the. Already read through all of the suttas, 5,000 pages of suttas, And now I'm on the second read through of that, but with the Pali as well, which is making it take a lot longer. But it's good, because I want to be more involved with the Pali, right? And so if I don't make sure that I have a schedule where I say, okay, this is the time where I do this, then, you know, I won't do it. Or I'll do only a little bit of it. Or it'll just kind of be like, well, I got wrapped up in this today, and, I might as well do that. So, Visaka asked, Bante, can you drink anything in the evenings? Yes. Actually, I could even have things like vegetable broth. Vegetable broth, meat broth, I think too. Any kind of juices, broths that don't have any chunks in them. Basically, I can have. So by extension, any kind of like frozen pops or anything that's basically just like fruit juice that's frozen, right? Like you like how we used to do when we were kids. You'd buy those trays and you like put a stick in it, and then you make your own like frozen pops and things like that. I can have stuff like that. Um, so yeah, any kind of juice that doesn't have like pulps and chunks and stuff like that. Any kind of broth, almost any kind of broth that doesn't have like pulps and chunks, I can have. That's allowable. Hello, Dharma learner. Welcome. Welcome. Hello, Malika. Welcome. A friend from down under with us. All right. So yeah, someone was saying he believed a particular somewhat well-known teacher was an arhat. Yeah. Well, see, I waste zero time in my life thinking or debating on or caring about if a teacher's an arhat. I essentially go with the assumption that most likely they're not. And the reason I do this is because there's so much of a desire for people to want their teacher to be an arhat that what we call, there's a perverse incentive for people to be called arhats, right? There's a perverse incentive. People have an incentive to believe and to propagate and to promote their teacher being a wise, awakened being. And the Buddha tells us quite clearly that the only one who can know the mind of an arahant is another arahant. So unless you're awakened yourself, all it is idle, intellectual. I want to use a certain word, but it's kind of a naughty word. I mean, it's mostly common parlance. Circle, wasting time in a circle, intellectual circle wasting. This is. I need a better word for that. A word I can use, but like that's really what it is. It's absolute a waste of time. Now, of course, you should keep an eye on if somebody who you think is, who you want the teachings from, you should definitely keep an eye on them, like observe their, not only what they say, but what they do, how they act. Right? The Buddha says the only way to know somebody, know the quality of somebody, know the ethics of somebody, know the wisdom of somebody, is to live with them and to observe them for a long period of time, not a short time. Like I lived with Bante Ji for 5.5 years, and I got to see, some things that the average person doesn't see. And so I know Bante Ji probably better than the average person. Now, there's people that have lived with Bhante G for many years and have known him for decades. They might know Bhante G a little bit better than me, right? But when you live closely with, literally live next door to somebody, and basically attend to them and be with them and observe them from behind the scenes for 5.5 years, you see things. You say, "Oh, okay, well, interesting." So it really doesn't make any sense to really waste time on, oh, is it, is this teacher awakened or not? What do they teach? Put it into practice. Is it wise? Does it work? If it does, then it's good for you, right? I'm not awakened, and there are people who have greatly benefited from my teachings, and it has nothing to do with me. Absolutely nothing to do with me. It just so happened that their karma was that they were around me when I said certain things, and those certain things connected with them in a certain way that caused them to develop insight. That's all it was. Nothing to do with me. It's not because, oh, I'm a wise, awakened teacher. No, I'm not. Right. And this is what I've learned. Like, I've learned that, like, a lot of it, I can't take credit for, I can't take credit for somebody's, just because it was like the right place, the right time, exactly what they needed to hear. And I reflected back on my own experiences. Like, it's like, yeah, it's like, yeah, I mean, obviously part of it had to do with the person, the teacher I was, the monastic I was with, who said that thing. But really, it was just causes and conditions. It was just karma that, like, something was said. I was here to hear it. I was in the right mind state, all the causes, everything came together, and insight arose. So I don't care, like, oh, is this teacher awakened? I listen to their teachings. I observe. I see what I can learn from it, and I go move on. That's it. Getting too attached to, oh, is this person? People would ask Bhante Ji all the time, "Are you awakened? Are you," like Q&As, like during retreats? "Are you awakened?" And Bhante Ji would always say, "No, no, I'm not awakened." You don't bother asking. Don't waste your time asking teachers if they're awakened. Even if they are, they're not going to tell you because they can't. It's just a waste. All right. Just reading Douse's comment/question. Hmm. Is there a specific sutta that lists the benefits of understanding the three characteristics of existence? I mean, I don't know if there's a specific sutta that specifically says that. Um, but look, as you say, right? This is the concept. Like with impermanence, one of the benefits is, I suppose, understanding things are impermanent. Understanding pajanati, to know very well, to know deeply, experientially, right? Things are impermanent. Thus, one won't attach to them. Exactly. or have any problems when they're gone. Yeah. Yeah, that's that's called wisdom. It's seeing things as they are. That's the benefit of understanding the three characteristics of existence. Bante, isn't vegetable broth not allowed after 12? No, it's allowed. Again, nothing in it. Nothing in it, just vegetable broth. It's allowable. Yeah. There might be some monastics that don't accept it, but as far as I can remember off the top of my head, that is something that is allowable. Joel says, "Are you familiar with Nanavira Tero's Notes on Dhamma book? Very deep, but I love it." Have I read that one? I'm not sure. I went through a Nanavira phase a bunch of years ago, but I'm not sure if I read that one or not. He's an interesting character. It's an interesting way of looking at things. Tenisaro says the three perceptions, huh? Hmm. I kind of see where that might fit, but I don't know if that fits the whole thing. It's kind of a little. I think this is a miss. Like I love Tanisaro Ajahn Jeff's translation of metta and things like that, but some of his translations, I don't know. Like the only of the three characteristics. The interesting thing about the second characteristic of existence, right? So this is where I kind of calling it a characteristic does kind of sound off to me is with dukkha. Because the Buddha clearly says in a sutta that it's not, there's nothing inherent. It's not the item, it's not the experience, it's not the thing itself that has dukkha. It's that the second you attach to it, you've created dukkha. So, in that way, I kind of see how it could be thought of as a perception. Because it's like the five aggregates, right? The five aggregates are just the five aggregates. We create suffering and we create an identity by clinging to them. It's an interesting thing. I don't know. I kind of see in some places where he might be coming from that, but I don't know if I'm sold on the sold on it just yet. I'd have to see like an explanation, like how Bhante Sujato will write like a thing, like he'll explain why he chose something, like which makes it better. It's like, oh, okay, I kind of get your perspective on this, why you're saying this. Don't necessarily need to agree with it, but at least I understand the concept. So I kind of understand where he might be coming from there, but I don't know if I necessarily do. Kristen says, Venerable, after watching the video with your reflections about aspirations from Maggasekha, I'm wondering how we can support as lay people towards a monastery in Colorado. Monastery is a long way off. What I would say is this, right? The way to support Maggasekha, and Maggasekha is not an official organization yet because it can't be. I don't know where I'm going to set roots yet, and so I can't I'm not going to create an organization because even like Bante and I at Empty Cloud and other people say like it's really rough like to create an organization in one state and then have to move it. So it's probably best to wait to where you're going to kind of settle in. And so it's not an official organization. And a monastery is a long way away, many years, right? Hopefully I'll have like a vihara maybe in Colorado in 5 years or so, like that, 4 or 5 years. But a monastery, a little different. What I would say is if the vision of Maggasekha is something that you want to help, well, then you help by being part of the community. You help by, sharing videos and being part of the community and helping more people to come to be part of the community. And what I'm doing now, like especially right now, like YouTube mostly is free, but right now I'm because of people helping and donating, I'm using a StreamYard service, and I can do things like share things on screen and put people's questions on screen and make it more fun and interactive and things like that. And I have a Zoom because of people's donations. Right? It's because of people who want to help me with these things and to allow me to do these things that I'm able to do them. Right. So supporting me in this way is how we build up. Right. We have to build up over the years. No place starts out big. Even Bhavana Society started out like a little, like the first retreat of Bhavana Society. You see a picture of it from like 1984, and like there you can still see like the insulation in the walls and things like that. Right? You start out small and you build up from there. Right? So like the goal of like having a monastery and having a retreat center and all of that stuff, that has to be built up to, right? And wherever I settle down, I'll always still be doing online things, right? The online, because I love my people from uh what you call it, Ireland and Africa and China and the Middle East and Hungary and wherever, right? I feel for my people, my fellow Dhamma friends all over the world, right? And so I always want to do online things. Um, so there will always be, even if you don't live in the state where I build a place, you'll always be a part of the place wherever you are, right? I think that's a really cool thing. That's always going to be part of Maggasekha, to be part of this, to be able to take part in the community events, to be able to, and obviously not even, once we have more monastics and, years down the road and all that, then, well, if you're on the Discord channel, right, if you're on our Discord community, then you already know there's more monastics than just me. Aya Sudama is on there, right? The Venerable Pasana from Australia is on there. Tom Pamuto is on there when he can, right? These are this is one of the great benefits of being on the Discord channel, the Discord server, right? Is to be able to have interactions with, of course, we have to kind of browbeat Aya Sudama to be on, like, she's so busy doing her own thing. Sometimes she'll forget to be on Suttas Monday and things like that, but this is a good thing. So that's how I would say, obviously donations are what allow me to do things, and also sharing, people who share my talks and share my YouTube channel and things like that with other people who invite other people to be part of the Discord channel, part of the streams. This is an easy invite, right? Oh, come on a YouTube channel on a Monday night. You don't have to pay anything. You don't have to log into anything. You don't have to subscribe to anything. Nice and easy. And I especially appreciate people who are not Buddhists who are maybe questioning, interested, want to hear about things. That's great. So I appreciate all of you. You know, this is not. This is why, if you really look at a monastery, who do you think the monastery is owned by? Who do you think owns Bhavana? Legally, the board does. So legally, both legally and spiritually, um, a monastery is owned by the lay people who support it. Right? Technically, the monks don't own the monastery. The monks wouldn't be there without the support and the generosity of the lay people. Right? I don't live in one particular place right now, but I wouldn't be able to do what I do without the support and generosity of all of you, right? And other people who don't even go on the streams, who are not part of the Discord community, but they still catch me in other ways, right? On Insight Timer, there's people who show up to everyone every weekend for my Insight Timer, and they donate through Insight Timer. They've probably never even gone on my website. They've never done anything. They don't know anything, partially because Insight Timer doesn't allow me to speak about those things on the streams because they don't want, competition. But, I can see that with lay teachers maybe, but with monks, it's a different story. Uh, I think because everything's free. I never charge for anything and I never will. Nothing should ever be charged for with the Dhamma. Nor should there be, I'm with Thanissaro. One of the things that I totally agree with Ajahn Jeff Thanissaro Bhikkhu is that I don't do things like Dana talks and like oh, we could use we need such and such. No, this is not how it goes. Like, if people support me, they support me. If they don't, they don't. If Maggasekha just disappears one day, it's just not enough people felt it was worth supporting. It's okay. I'll do something else. It's but as long as I'm supported, I can do these things and work towards what I think will be beneficial for myself and others in the long run. More places for Dhamma in America. There's plenty of room for more. There's not enough. There's not a saturation of monastics and Dhamma places in America so far, to the point where there's competition. This is not, the only competition is, sometimes because there's only so many hours in the day. If you like to follow like 10 different places, their live streams are going to interact, are going to, you're going to have to choose which live stream you go to, things like that. Actually, Dallas, I technically have a Patreon, and just like I did it in the way that that Buddhist Society of Western Australia has. Right, the Patreon is specifically only for if you want to support doing things like the videos and I think I have, between the websites, YouTube, Zoom, streaming, the clips thing, it's probably about $700-800 a year in fees. Close to $1,000 a year in fees for all these things. And I've been able to be supported. That's been great. Hello, Sin. Welcome. Can you explain what the Discord app is and how we can use it in our learning? Thanks to supporters, I can show it to you because I have it up. Let's share screen. Do it. StreamYard is great, man. Even like very like famous big podcasters and YouTubers, they use StreamYard. And I can see why, because it's so awesome. It's so easy. The functionality is amazing. Um, and it's not free. So thanks to people supporting me, I can use it. And I can do things like bring other people on to have interviews. But I haven't done in a while. I should do it soon. Maybe in a week or two, I'll try to get another monastic to come on with me. Um, let's see here. Let's share the Discord. So this is the Discord. This is the general chat. You can see we have, we're 6 years old. We're probably the oldest surviving Buddhist Discord. There's like 700 people, although most of these people we never see. There's a lot of lurkers, and really there's only maybe about 20 to 30 people who are really active all the time. But you can see, right? I don't want to go people talking about different things, discussing different things. We do our daily announcements that tell you, what's going on. See, look, hey, I'm streaming tonight. Or no, streaming this morning, streaming tonight, 8 p.m., Dhammapalooza, etc. People commenting things. You can see here on the side, there's things like new member introduction. There's Ask a Monastic, right? People ask questions, and there's Dhamma, right? I don't want to show anything that might be too private, so I'm trying to be very weekly schedule, right? And there's all kinds of different things like Dhamma books. People post PDFs, books, bites, resources. One of my favorite channels, the Dhamma meme channel. Here's a great one. Stop scrolling, go practice. Right? I love it. People post their funny Dhamma memes, things like that. And then there's also like pics, video, right? People will post, here's a new thing from Hillside Hermitage. Oh, an Ajahn Brahmali one. Oh, that's from a long time ago. Actually, I remember that talk. Yeah, see? All kinds of stuff. Ajahn Sona, Ajahn Amaro. And then there's lay life discussion, which I never go into. All kinds of different things. When there's retreats, people post when there's retreats. And then there's our weekly Samyutta Monday. This is when we do our things. And then there's voice channels, right? So this is, and so you can see on the side here, there's other channels like Clear Mountain Monastery. Tan Nisabo also has a Discord. He followed me into having a Discord, and it's Fourth Messenger, different ones. Siramangalo. We brought Bhante Yuttadhammo into Discord years ago, and then he decided he made his own, right? So this is Discord, right? Lots of places. People will announce when they meditate, so people end up meditating together, things like that. It's a really cool community thing, right? You can see events, Sutta Mondays, right? Things like that. We'll post events up. And that's the Discord. All right, so the Discord, we are early Buddhist texts. We're sutta based in study and practice, right? So we have kind of strict guidelines and rules that keep people in a certain thing. So we're not, because it's not a general Buddhist place. We want to keep our focus, and so if that's something you're interested in. Actually, I usually do this at the end of the stream, but since people are here, send an email. Send an email to maggasekha@gmail.com. Then you can, and request for an invite. It's not an open public server. And we usually the only time people come in are either word of mouth from somebody who's already part of the server or from one of my streams. We try not to make it too public. It's been open. Like we used to have it just like, here's a link. Anybody can join in the past. And boy, it would be quite interesting. We'd get all kinds of, like New Age people, pagans and Satanists and all kinds of people joining. And it was just too much. So we made it very clear, focused, and controlling the influx of people. We have a good bunch of people today. Although, of course, even though there's over 20 people, and the chat is not too active. I guess people don't have much to say, and that's okay. It is actually 9:07, so maybe this might be the time to do our meditation. Do like 9:10 to 9:40. Then we'll do some Dhammapada verses, and then we'll close out for the evening. Maybe we'll do that. Sutta, it's not, I don't know if we don't have enough time for Sutta, at least a big one. I think it's time for, everybody wants Suttas now, huh? Okay. Why don't we'll do a couple minutes of Sutta Roulette. Let's do Anguttara Nikaya, because last time we did Samyutta Nikaya. Oh, hey, Jay. Good to see you. Yeah, it's okay if you're late. Let's share screen. Our good friend who was a mod for many years on the Discord, Adriana, who kind of disappeared a year ago. We don't know. She just went offline, and we don't know what's going on with her. But she would always. I miss her during Dhammapalooza. She was always an energetic, an energetic force in the chat, and she would. The ongoing joke was, as soon as like nobody said anything in the chat, and I was like, "Oh, it's time for a sutta," she would say, "Oh, questions here. Get your questions out." Kind of like a joke, so that I wouldn't go over a sutta. All right, so number between 1 and 11, and type a number between 1 and 11 in the chat in 3, 2, 1, go. Those of you who might not know what the heck is going on, you're about to learn soon. 4. All right, Sin comes in with a 4. So that means we're going to go to the Book of Fours in the Anguttara Nikaya. Book of Fours. All right. You got 250 suttas, but the last bunch are probably going to be really short and a lot of repetition. So what I'm going to say here is, number between 1 and 100 in 3, 2, 1, go. $33. All right. So one of the reasons I love chat roulette or chat roulette. Jeez, what is this? Isn't that something? Sutta roulette is because we don't know what we're going to read. Right? We only know the Nikaya that we're going to look into. And so whatever we read can be totally random. We don't know. So it's like, who knows what good Dhamma we're going to hear. We only know by the numbers. And this also, for people who are not familiar with navigating like Sutta Central or navigating the suttas, this allows you to see on the screen how to kind of get to places. So if you look on the screen, let's go back, right? So this is Anguttara Nikaya. You can see up top here, Sutta numbered AN, Anguttara Nikaya, right here. And you can see, you look, oh, book of 1s, 2s, 3s, so all the way up to 11. So you go, oh, okay, so there's 11 books. And it's numbered, so this is based on the numbers. So, oh, okay. So, well, if you go to the book of 4s, what do you think you're going to get there? What's 4s? 4 noble truths, 4 foundations of mindfulness, 4 spiritual powers, 4 spiritual, these things. You'll see this, right? So we went to book of 4s, and now we're going to the 33rd sutta in the book of 4s. So that would be in the first 50. And you look, where's 33? Okay, that's 21 to 30. No, that's no good. 31, 32, 33. The lion. The lion's roar terrifies beasts. The Buddhist teaching terrifies the gods. Let's see what it says. Mendicants, towards the evening, the lion, king of beasts, emerges from his den, yawns, looks around all 4 quarters, and roars his lion's roar 3 times. Then he sets out on the hunt. And the animals who hear the roar of the lion, king of beasts, are typically filled with fear, awe, and terror. They return to their lairs, be they in a hole, the water, or a wood. And the birds take to the air. Even the royal elephants, bound with strong harnesses in the villages, towns, and capital cities, break apart their bonds and urinate and defecate in terror as they flee here and there. That's how powerful is the lion, king of beasts, among animals, how illustrious and mighty. In the same way, when the realized one arises in the world, perfected, fully awakened Buddha, accomplished in knowledge and conduct, holy, knower of the worlds, supreme guide for those who wish to train, teacher of gods and humans, awakened and blessed. This is the 9 qualities of the Buddha. He teaches the Dhamma, such as identity, such as the origin of identity, such as the cessation of identity, and such as the practice that leads to the cessation of identity. Now there are gods who are long-lived, beautiful, and very happy, lasting long in their divine palaces. When they hear this teaching by the realized one, they're typically filled with fear, awe, and terror. I quite like this. This is like how wonderful it is in the Deva realms that you just think, oh, this is just how it is. This is how I am, and this is how I'm going to be forever. Now there are gods. When they hear this teaching, they're filled with, oh, no, it turns out we're impermanent, though we thought we were permanent. It turns out we don't last, though we thought we were everlasting. It turns out we're transient, though we thought we were eternal. It turns out that we're impermanent, not lasting, transient, and included within identity. That's how powerful is the realized one in the world with its gods, how illustrious and mighty. The Buddha, the teacher without peer, in all the world with its gods, rolls forth the wheel of Dhamma. From his own insight, identity, its cessation, the origin of identity, and the Noble Eightfold Path that leads to the stilling of suffering. And then the long-lived gods, so beautiful and famous, are afraid and full of terror, like other beasts when they hear a lion. We haven't transcended identity. It turns out we're impermanent. So they say when they hear the word of the perfected one, free and poised. Well, that's kind of sad for them. Let's see, 917. We'll do one more. Then we got to do our meditation. Can't skip the meditation, even if the meditation is shorter, because I was yapping on for a long period of time. Can't skip the meditation. So, a number between 1 and 11 in 3, 2, 1, go. Four. Four again. We liked four. That's okay. So 4 is first. Book of Fours. And I do take into consideration people who might have better internet, and who, if the same person keeps getting the top number, then I'll take another number. Um, Number between 1 and 100 in 3, 2, 1, go. $78. All right. Second 50. So there we go. The chapter on guaranteed, 71 to 80, 73, 77, 78. A religious donation. 4 ways of offering purifying an offering to the teacher. All right, a religious donation. Mendicants, there are these 4 ways of purifying a religious donation. What for? There's a religious donation that's purified by the giver, not the recipient. There's a religion. No, does this explain? Okay, yeah, okay, it does explain. Just double checking. There's a religious donation that's purified by the recipient, not the giver. There's a religious donation that's purified by neither the giver nor the recipient. There's a religious donation that's purified by both the giver and the recipient. And how is a religious donation purified by the giver, not the recipient? It's when the giver is ethical of good character, but the recipient is unethical of bad character. And how is a religious donation purified by the recipient, not the giver? It's when the giver is unethical of bad character, but the recipient is ethical of good character. And how is a religious donation purified by neither the giver nor the recipient? It's when both the giver and the recipient are unethical of bad character. And how is a religious donation purified by both the giver and the recipient? It's when both the giver and the recipient are ethical of good character. These are the 4 ways of purifying a religious donation. Let's see. Visuddhi. Yeah. Purity, holiness, excellency. All right. Let's do meditation. The meditation will bring us out just in time to maybe read a verse or two of Dhammapada and then call it a night. So for those of you who duck out when the meditation happens, thank you for coming on and being active and being a part. And hope to see you next week. Start by setting up your body in a comfortable and stable position. Close your eyes. Begin by scanning through the body, starting from the feet, going up to the head. Put your focus and attention on the feet. By that, I mean focus on whatever sensation or feeling arises in that part of the body, such as the feeling of the feet pressing against the floor, the cushion. Moving up through the ankles and into the calves. If while scanning through the body, you have trouble connecting with a sensation, you can prompt yourself by asking, what do I see? What do I feel? Up through the knees, into the thighs. What's the feeling of the thighs pressing against the chair, cushion, couch? Up through to the hips and pelvis. This is an important part of your body for your posture, especially if you're sitting on a cushion. The position, the angle of the hips and pelvis can impact both the legs and the spine. So pay close attention to this part of the body. One of the main reasons for doing this scan is to be able to observe the body and see when a posture is stable and comfortable or imbalanced, small feelings of discomfort that will lead to larger feelings of pain later on. Take time to adjust and move your posture around now so you can be as still as possible later. When you're ready, move up the spine through the abdomen and the chest, checking that the spine is not leaning or slouching, but in its neutral position, resting comfortably. A spine that's bent, leaning, will cause pain after sitting for some time. Up through to the shoulders, checking that they're hanging loosely. And down through to the elbows and hands, observing how their position impacts your posture as well. And finally, up to the head, checking that it also is not leaning or slouching left or right, forward or back. Resting comfortably with the chin parallel to the floor. When you're done setting up your body in a comfortable and stable position, let the body go. Take 3 deep breaths. Then let the breath go. From here on in, try not to manipulate or control the breath in any way. This body has been breathing from the moment you were born. It will continue to do so until the second you die. It doesn't need you to do its job. Your job is to simply observe, investigate, and abide with the breath. As you follow your breath, your mind will become bored, seek to run away to the past or the future, or an external distraction will arise and your mind will chase after it, become agitated by it or excited by it. Whenever this happens, you get lost, taken away from the breath. After a time, it will slowly start to dawn on you that you've been taken away. That's when you make effort to bring back your focus, mindfulness. Acknowledge you've been taken away. Then practice letting go by not getting agitated and pushing it away, nor by getting excited and grasping onto it. Simply by trying to let it go, give it no attention, no energy. Let it be. Let it go on its way. And then return to the breath. Whenever you're distracted away, acknowledge, let go, and return over and over again. Acknowledge, let go, and return. The breath is home base. It's always there doing its job, ready for you to come and follow it towards a tranquil, peaceful, wise mind. Acknowledge, let go, and return. Follow the breath deeper. While you're following your breath, every once in a while, check in with the state of your mind. Is your mind becoming more calm and tranquil or not? As your mind becomes more calm and tranquil, you may begin to notice further, more subtle characteristics of the breath. Sometimes the breath is long and deep, sometimes short and shallow. See if you can start observing the impermanence, the changing of the breath as the body is breathing in and out. Slowly start to open your eyes. Become aware of the room around you. Coming back to the external. Reflecting on the state of your mind before the meditation and now, and any notable experiences you had during that meditation. I don't know if Jay's still here, but he says the story of the Devas getting a reality check reminds me of when the Buddha challenged Mahabrahma to a game of hide and seek. I'd like to read that sutta. So it doesn't sound familiar. Hide and seek. That's funny. All right. So let's do some Dhammapada verses and then we'll close out. The mind. Oh, we just did the mind before. Now it's flowers, I think. Did we? Let's do the mind. Just as a fletcher straightens an arrow shaft, even so the discerning man straightens his mind, so fickle and unsteady, so difficult to guard. As a fish when pulled out of water and cast on land throbs and quivers, even so is this mind agitated. Hence should one abandon the realm of Mara. Wonderful indeed it is to subdue the mind, so difficult to subdue, ever swift, and seizing whatever it desires. A tamed mind brings happiness. Let the discerning man guard the mind, so difficult to detect and extremely subtle, seizing whatever it desires. A guarded mind brings happiness. Dwelling in the cave, the mind without form wanders far and alone. Those who subdue this mind are liberated from the bonds of Mara. Wisdom never becomes perfect in one whose mind is not steadfast, who knows not the good teaching and of whose faith wavers. There is no fear for an awakened one, whose mind is not sodden by lust, nor afflicted by hate, and who has gone beyond both merit and demerit. Realizing that this body is as fragile as a clay pot and fortifying this mind like a well-fortified city, fight out Mara with the sword of wisdom. Then, guarding the conquest, remain unattached. Ere long last, this body will lie upon the earth, unheeded and lifeless, like a useless lot. Whatever harm an enemy may do to an enemy or a hater to a hater, yeah, now I remember we did do this because the hater to a hater. An ill-directed mind inflicts to oneself a greater harm. Neither mother, father, nor any other relative can do one greater good than one's own directed mind. So next week is flowers. All right, friends, let's close up. So, friends, for those of you who are watching, who are new, we want to find out more information about Maggasekha. We spoke earlier in the session here about the organization and what we're trying to do. You can actually go on this YouTube channel and find a video that I posted talking about my vision for Maggasekha. So if you're interested in following more things that I do, future retreats, videos, articles, etc., you can go to the website scrolling on the bottom there, maggasekha.org. Maggasekha, Maggasekha, means student of the path. And this is the website. You can go there, and on the top right, you can put your email in, and then anytime I post something, a new post, then you'll get an email. Same thing on YouTube. You can subscribe, click the bell, and anytime you go live, anytime a new video comes out, just did a Ask a Bhante. That's coming up again on this last weekend, and also in a day or two. Another Ask a Bhante is coming up, another video. So if you subscribe, click the bell, you get all that information. We also spoke, and I also showed a live version, a live sharing of the Discord Sangha, right? The community on this one. And so if that's something that you're interested in, joining, checking out a community of practitioners who practice and study in accords with the early text, the suttas, you can check us out by sending an email to maggasekha@gmail.com, and then you can request an invite. Go from there. All right, just checking. Yeah, okay, Bowen. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting though. That makes me want to try to find it. Okay, friends. Well, so Monday nights, 8 p.m. New York time, Dhammapalooza. Insight Timer. If you have Insight Timer app and you want to spend an hour and a half with me on Saturdays, you can do so. Look me up as a teacher on Insight Timer, and I do an hour and a half session. It's a Dhamma talk, Q&A, meditation, etc. That's Saturdays at 3 p.m. New York time. Mondays through Fridays, when I'm able to, do morning monastery experience. So while I'm here with Bhante Rahula, we can do it. So Monday through Friday, tomorrow morning, 8 a.m. New York time, I'll be on for a half hour of giving you the experience of what you would get if you were staying at a monastery. A little precepts, little chanting, little Dhamma teachings for your morning, so that you can get the morning started right with good Dhamma. And with that, friends, I wish you a very spiritually successful and peaceful practice until we meet again. Sukhi Hotu, may you be happy. Practice well and be well.